Welcome everybody. Am I audible to all of you? A quick audio check, guys. Am I clearly audible to all of you? You guys are already muted by default. So in case if you want me to unmute you, please message me. I'll unmute you. But as of now, am I audible to all of you? A quick audio check, guys. There would be a question mark section. You can type over there and answer accordingly. Okay, so I am audible. So the only rule in my class, guys, please be interactive. The more you interactive, the more better the class is, the more interesting the class becomes. Okay, so I request all of you to be interactive as much as you can, ask as many questions as you want, and interrupt me in between wherever you want. Okay, am I clear with the rules? So is the language English comfortable to everybody, or should I make a mix of Hindi as well as English? Whatever gives the most votes, guys, come on. Should I go with English or should I go with English? Only English? Okay, no worries. So how many of you are joining us from out of India? Anyone who is joining us from out of India right now? Yeah? Okay. So I believe all of you know that why we gathered here exactly. We gathered here for Python API testing. We'll see what it is all about. Why do we use it? What is the exact use? And all these things. So before I start, any one of you who has some prior experience in Python or in any programming language, I want an input from all of you guys. So come on, be interactive. Apeksha, Bhagyashri, Divya, Divyendu, Irshad, Kavya, Saif, Mohini, everybody. Please be interactive. In case if you guys have any experience in any programming language, you can type that also. So if few of you have basic knowledge in Java, okay. You say you have core Java and little knowledge of Python. Java. Okay. So most of you over here belongs from a Java background as manual and accessibility tester. One thing to be very much clear, guys, this course needs no prior coding skills. We do not need any prior coding skills. So in case any of us is not belonging from a programming language, do not worry. We are good enough to start from very basic scratch and we'll go to the end with everything from basic to advanced. The day you will be ending the course, you guys will be having enough capability to challenge a 2 years experienced person or maybe a 3 years experienced person. So as much as you practice, the more better it becomes. Okay, so how many of you are working? Just to know the audience, I want to know if anyone is a student over here or everybody is from a working background. I want all of you to be interactive, guys. Rajesh, Ritu, Sameer, Kanan, Shiv, Tushar, Weber, Vaidya, Yogesh. So you guys are working. Anybody who is a student or who is not working right now? I just want to know the audience, the only thing. Okay, no worries. So the main objective that we all gathered here today is to get knowledge about Python API testing. Why Python? What is API? Why do we automate things? All these questions will be answered shortly. So let's start. Any questions before we start the session? If anyone wants to ask me any question before we start the session for the day. I'm repeating myself, guys. You guys are muted by default. In case if you guys want to speak something, tell me, I'll unmute you, okay? So if anyone having any questions, they can connect with me right now. If not, then you guys can give me a thumbs up to start the session. Yeah. Scope of Python with API. Okay. Then you're asking, is it helpful to begin a career in Python? Okay. So see, Python is very much useful and an easy language. Python is a very useful and an easy language that we use in our day-to-day life. So I'll tell you why Python exactly. So let's start with the day. Let me explain you some basic things first. That what is Python and how do we exactly work with it? What is an API? So just suppose I'll give you two examples. Suppose this is a restaurant. So I might be bad with my drawings, guys. So please do not judge me on that. So let me name this as Python API restaurant. So this is my API restaurant. I can give this any name as per my requirement. Over this in this restaurant, so I am a person who hops in. I am a person who comes in. Now there is a menu, correct? There is a big menu. In this menu, there might be multiple things. There might be multiple things that we have, correct? It can be, veg, it can be non-veg, it can be XYZ stuff. Now over this in this menu, my duty is to order something, correct? So let's suppose I'm going to order veg noodles. Let me just give me. I'm going to order veg noodles. Now what will happen next? I'm going to ask you guys. Now who will come and take the order? Who will come and take the order? Guys, be interactive. The only one and key responsibility of my class. A waiter. Exactly. So let's say this is the waiter. Let's color him red. Now, what exactly happened? I ordered something. I ordered some noodles. This order was taken by the waiter, correct? Now, what will happen next? Now, what will the waiter do with the order that I have, given to him? What will be the next step if you guys visit a restaurant? What happens next? You go and follow waiter. You order something. What happens next at the back end? The waiter takes the order to the kitchen, correct? Right? Guys, everybody answer. I want an input from all of you. Come on. Don't be sleepy in the class. Now, let's say this is the chef. Let's say this is my chef. The waiter comes and waiter takes the order from here to here. Now, what is the responsibility of the chef, guys? What is the responsibility of the chef? The responsibility of the chef is to cook whatever the order is, correct? So once the order is cooked and ready, what is the next step? What is the next step? Bhagyashri, Apeksha, Dibyendu, everybody. Waiter will take it back correctly. So this person takes it back. The chef gives the order back to the waiter, correct? So I'm going to say, okay, boss, I'm going to give you back the same order. Now, what happens to the waiter? Waiter's responsibility is to deliver the order to the customer, correct? Now he goes and delivers the order to the end customer. So in a short term, what exactly happened? So exactly what happened is this is, let's say this is the user, or let's say this is client. Client means me, who the person is ordering something. He goes and orders something. He goes and orders something to who? He orders something to the waiter. He orders something to the waiter. So let's say this is my middleware. This is a path. This is a bridge which connects the client's need with the chef. If I'm not wrong, correct? Which connects the client's need with the chef. So now I'll go and say, boss, this is my chef, which I'll say in a technical term as server. So I am having a client, which is me. I am giving a request via middleware, and then the same request is being served to the server. Now, what was the responsibility of the server? The server's responsibility was to cook the dish and give it back. The server's responsibility was to cook the dish and give it back, if I'm not wrong. Let's say like this. Now, once the the chef cooks the dish and give back to the middleware, what is the next step? The middleware again gives the same thing back to the client. The middleware's responsibility is to give the same thing back to the client. So what exactly happened here? What exactly happened here? The client requested something to the middleware. The middleware further requested the same thing to the server. The server gave a response, which was the dish. The middleware gives me the same response. And as a user, I am satisfied with my need. So what exactly I want to tell you here is this middleware is called an API. This middleware is called an API. You guys must be wondering that I have not told you the full form, but the full form is very simple. It's application programming interface. What does the term interface means, guys? Come on, Anil, Apeksha, Bhagyashri, Shiv, Kanan, Ritu, Tushar, Tanvi, anybody? What does the term interface means in a layman language? If I say connecting two things, exactly. So we can say that interface is responsible to connect two things or to interact, correct? So exactly, it is the joint between two things. The way we say it is a bridge, communicator, correct? So here the same thing is happening. I'm having a client, I'm having a server. This is an middleware where an API works. Let's take one more example. Let's take one more example. So let's say I am a big player in the market. I have developed a calculator. I have developed a scientific calculator. Let's say I'll name it as scientific calculator. Scientific calculator version 2.0. Let's name it as like this. Okay. So now in this calculator, there are multiple modules. I have multiple modules. Let's make some modules. What is a module, Kanan? Yogesh, what normally we say, what is a module? If I ask you normally, so I have few modules out there, one unit, correct? So let's name these modules. Suppose this is, I'll say this is my addition, scientific addition, I'll name it as. Let's name it as scientific subtraction. Let's name it as scientific multiplication. Let's name it as scientific division. Let's name it as scientific percentage calculator. Let's name it as converter. Let's name this one as let's name it as XYZ module. So I have multiple modules, which is called the scientific calculator version v2.0. Now, what is my responsibility? This is something which is available freely in the market, you can say. This is something which is available freely in the market. Now, your manager asks you, to build a module. Your manager asks you to build a billing software. Let's say your manager asks you to build a billing software. Okay, so you are working in your own organization and you are said to develop a billing software. Let's name this as Bill. Now, in this billing software, there is a requirement that for a billing module, you always need a calculator. Correct? We always need a calculator for a billing software. Now, there are two possibilities. The possibility number one is that I create a calculator on my own which contains all the functionalities, or I have another option which says I can use this scientific calculator v2.0 in my module directly. So which one do you prefer? If I ask you, which one do you prefer? Come on, guys, everybody, all the 24 attendees out there, I want an input from you. You will say to use it directly. Okay, what about others? Saif, Irshad, Dibyendu, Rashmi, Rajesh, Samir, Kanan, Shiv, Sonika, Tanvi. Everybody says that the smart work says that we should use the existing one. We should use the calculator module directly. Correct. Great. That is what exactly we should do. So now this is some code base which is available in some outside server. Okay. And this is a server which is in India. So now what will we do? We will say that boss, this scientific calculator person has given us a URL. Let's say let's name it as URL 1.00 something. This is an address, you can say. So whenever the user hits on this address and asks for a unit, whenever the user hits on this address and asks for addition, then all the functionalities of this addition will be available to the XYZ user. Correct? So what will now happen? This billing software will now request to the URL that boss, I want the addition. This will move ahead and ask the server that I want all the addition details, which in return gives me all the addition details, and which in future gives me all the addition functionality directly in my software. Now, you guys must be wondering that, Ashish, why have you used URL 1.00 over here? Correct? Why we have not used the functionalities directly? Anyone who can answer me this question? Anyone who can answer me this question, that why have we not used the code base directly, but instead we have used a URL to request and response? Anybody? Correct, exactly, the security reason. So we have a very great IQ audience. So now the exact reason is the security. Now I don't want, the scientific calculator person do not want to share the details of the code at all. He says, give me your query, I'll resolve it for you and I'll give you the answer. So just question me that I want an output for 2 plus 3, I'll give you 5. But you should have no concerns that what backend code I have written. So that is the reason that we have created an API, an application programming interface, for the end user to connect, to request and to response. Is it clear what exactly an API is, guys, and why do we use it? Is it clear to everybody, all the 26 attendees down there? A yes for yes or a no for no? Come on. Be interactive, guys. Come on. Don't make this a boring one. We should make this as an interesting one. Correct? Now, great. We have taken care of that. What is an API? We got it. No worries. Now we must be wondering that, okay, if we have known what is an API now, why Python? The next question comes down. Why Python? This is a nice question. Anyone who can tell me that why should we use Python? Anyone who has any basic idea that why should we use a programming language like Python? It is easy, it is simple. Any more things? Easy and secure, just guess. Okay. For writing codes, okay. Flexible interpreter language. Okay. Any more inputs, guys? Python supports web. Okay. Any more suggestions? No idea. No worries. Kartika, any suggestions? Ritu and everybody down there. Tanvi. So, why Python exactly? The first and a very important thing that why exactly we should use Python is it is a general purpose language. Now, what do I mean when I say a general purpose language? So, let me show you a very basic idea that why exactly Python. So, let's open your browsers, and over there you can just search for Python interpreter, or you can say Python compiler. You can open the first one. So let's take the example of this one only. Now, this is my Python language over here, and when I execute it, it gives me the output here. If I say run, it says it has printed hello world. So now if I say you to print a very simple thing in Python, it's very, very easy. It simply says boss print hello world and your work is done. And for people who are unaware of Java language, let's open a compiler for Java also. I'll just compare both of these. So if I open a Java compiler, let's open any of this. So over here it says, boss, I'm going to use 6 lines. I'm going to use 6 lines to print one thing, which is taking time. I don't know why. Which says to print hello world. I'm going to take 6 lines of code. However, when I'm going to say I'm using Python, I'm going to use 1 line of code to print the same. So which one is better for sure? Which one is better? I believe Python, definitely. 1 line of code and work is done. We simply say that Python is very simple and very easy language to use when compared to other programming languages such as Java. Now, when I'm saying that I'm using a general purpose language, that simply means you can see when I'm using any other programming languages like Java, here I need to use a keyword called class. For those who are unaware, do not worry. Where we use a keyword called class, it is a wrapping unit. Without using this keyword, I cannot do anything in Java. I cannot do anything in Java. But what happens to Python? It says, boss, it's not important. It's not important if you use the class keyword or not. I can work with it. I can work without it. Hence, I am a general purpose language. Am I clear with my first point? That why do we say Python is a general purpose language, guys? Am I clear to my first point? All the attendees, guys, be interactive. The only one request from all of you is be interactive, nothing else. Okay. The next thing I normally say is that it is an interpreting language. What is interpreting language? Anybody who can tell me what is an interpreting language, if anyone has any idea about it? What is an interpreting language, guys? No idea, no worries. Kavya, can so Yasmin can run on any platform without compiling. Okay. Anyone having any more idea about what is an interpreting language? Exactly. Execution happens line by line. Code saves in a binary form. That is a compile type language, Anil. So now let's see with an example directly. Okay. Uh, let's see the same with the help of an example. Now here I'm writing print hello world, and I'll come down and I'll simply write print 4 divided by 0. Now I'll go back to my Java compiler. Here also I'll come down. I'll come down in my Java compiler. I'll write system dot out dot println. Here I also I'm going to write the same thing. I'll say 4 divided by 0. Now, do you think both of the codes will execute? Do you think both of these codes will be executed? And if not, then which will not execute and why? Why will it given me an error shift? Why will it give it me a error? Others, please tell me which one of these will execute, and if not, then why? 4 divided by 0 is not possible. Okay. So let's try to execute, or first let me try to execute this one, the Java code. Let's see what happens. It says, boss, I got an error, which is that, okay, it says unexpected this. So let me write the, it's a syntax error. So let me clear it. Now let's execute it. Let's wait for it to get executed. It gives me an error. It says, boss, there is an exception. There is an exception that arithmetic expression by 0. So what exactly happened here? Normally, the first line that you guys see here, the hello world print statement, it normally does not get printed. But since we are using a compiler which is available online, hence it is showing me the same. Otherwise, it always gives me an error that, boss, I cannot move ahead unless or until you remove all the errors down the file. Now, if I execute this one, here it says, boss, I have printed you the hello world. I have printed you the hello world. I have executed line number 3. And once I got the error on line number 4, I stopped. So that is what an interpreting language is. An interpreting language only and only simply means that whenever you have to execute your code one by one, line by line, and wherever you're going to get an error, you're going to stop at that point of time. Simple, unsorted. Correct? So that is the difference between a compiling language and an interpreting language. So the hairline difference is a compiling language will always give you an error, all the errors all together. Unless or until you resolve all the errors, it will not move ahead. But interpreting language will always move unless or until the exact line is encountered. It will not give you all the errors at one time. It will give you errors one by one. So here Python is an interpreting language. Am I clear to everybody? Am I clear to all of you? 28 attendees, guys, be interactive. Say yes or no. If you're sleeping, get some water. Yeah? Show some enthusiasm. I'm getting reply from only few students who I'm seeing to be genuinely interested. Out of 28, only 10 are responding. Yeah? The more you interact, guys, the more I make this lecture beautiful, okay? The third is a very, very important type of reason that we should use Python is this language is dynamic in nature. Dynamic in nature. What do I mean when I'm saying dynamic in nature? Let's go back to the code and see what happens. Okay, I'm removing this line. Now here I say A is equal to, let's remove the first one also. I'll simply say A is equal to to welcome to way to automation. Okay, so here this is a string. This is a string that we call that A is a variable which handles some data. The data is welcome to way to automation. And if I say print A, and if I execute this code, what happened? It printed me whatever was stored inside the variable A. Okay, that is okay. That sounds good. Simple, sorted. Now, if I say on the down line, if I say B is equal to 10, and if I say print B, let's run. It prints me 10. If I say C is equal to 10.5, and if I say print C, let's run. It says 10.5. Now, if I want to see the type of the data I have, I'll say boss print me the type of A. If I execute it, it says it is a string type. Okay, great. Now, if I copy this, so let me simply copy this and paste it, and let's make this time as B. And for this one, let's make it as C. And if I run this, so you can see it says the first is string, the second was is an integer, and the third one is a float. The third one is a floating point data. Let's try to do the same over here. I'll say over here, I'll come and say A is equal to 10, or I'll say A is equal to welcome to way to automation. Let me remove this line, give a semicolon, and simply say I want to print A, the value stored in the variable A. So let's do that. Let's see what happens if I execute it. So it's taking a bit. It gave me an error. It gave me actually 4 errors. It says hello world, unclosed character, literal, a semicolon is expected, blah blah and blah. Okay, let's try to make this in inverted commas in case if it is not allowing this. Let's re-execute it now and see if it works now or not. Still it says boss there are 2 errors. Symbol A, it says cannot find the symbol. It says I cannot find what is A. Why? Anyone who has done with Java, whosoever was working with Java, can tell me how to remove this error. Exactly, Weber. Data type. Data type. This is what makes Python different. Python do not need data type at all. It takes the data type at runtime. I do not need to give mention here that boss it is integer, it is string, it is float or xyz. It says I don't give a damn. I'm cool with it, whatever I am with. It says I don't want a data type. I can sort it out on my own. Hence, it simply says I can work very normally. Now, if I say int a, and if I now execute it, oh, why should I write int? It will give me an error because it's a string type of data. So I should remove that it. Let's say I'll say 10. Now if I execute it now it should print me the value of A. It's taking a bit long. Yep, the code executed properly. It executed with the data 10. So the difference, what exactly I want to explain you here is that in other programming languages like Java, C, C++, we need to give the type of the data that we are giving. But when I'm talking about Python, Python is so dynamic in nature that it does not require any type of the data type that you need to give. It automatically takes it at runtime. Am I clear with the concept that why we call Python a dynamic programming language? Am I clear to all of you? Simple, solid, right? All the 26 attendees. Am I clear? All these 3 points to everybody. Python is general purpose, interpreting, dynamic. Yeah? So your keyboards are not working, guys? That you cannot even type yes or no? Please. So we are going to continue this humor all over our class. So do not mind that actually. So now we are good that we know what is an API is. We know why Python we use for. So Mohini, you're asking to repeat the dynamic concept. So it's very simple. When you are saying over here, I'm saying A is equal to welcome to way to automation. And if I, okay, let me take a very simple, another example. I'll say, I will say A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20, C is equal to A plus B. And if I say print C, what will happen? The output is 30. It printed me the word, the addition 30. Now, anywhere in this code, am I writing that no, I need to give integer type of data? No, I do not need to give the data type of the variable I'm giving here. But when I'm talking about other programming languages like Java, C, C++, I always need to tell that what type of data I am passing. Unless or until I'll not pass the type of the data, it will not work ahead. So that is why we call Python is very dynamic and easy to use. Now anyone can easily understand this code without any hassle, correct? So that is why it is dynamic in nature, Mohini. Sorry. Am I clear now? Okay, great. So now moving ahead, that we came to know that what is an API is, why do we use it? We are aware why we use Python. If I want to print a string, I just printed the string Divya. A is equal to welcome to way to automation, print A, and your work is done, correct? The thing is that you need to give that in the inverted commas. Yeah. Okay, great. So we know what an API is. We know why we use Python. The next, let's try to download Python first of all. So how do we download it? Simply say download Python. I'll go to the official website, which is python.org. Over here, we have a latest version, which is Python 3.9.0. If you hit download, you can download it very easily. Simply download it and install using the very simple installation steps. Once you download it and install it, you guys can verify the same. You guys can verify whether it is downloaded properly or not. Simply write, open your command line and write Python. The moment you write Python and hit enter, you will see a screen like this. Now if I say print hey, so it prints me hey. So my Python console is working correctly, correct? Okay. So you can actually end it with some keys. So just simply download Python 3.9.0, which is the latest version right now. Install it in your systems and verify the same using the CMD prompt. I'll give you a proper walkthrough that what are the steps of installation if anyone faces an issue with. So do not worry on that phase. So till here, am I clear to all of you? So that we can move ahead. Am I clear to all of you till here? It's not clean and clear. It's clear in your head, right? Okay, great then. So let's try to see the concept of API only one more time, but this time in a more fashionable way. So how many of you have heard about a website called Trello? How many of you have heard a website called Trello if I open it in the incognito mode? Anyone who has heard about a website called Trello? Anyone? No? So what exactly is this website does? This is a very easy basic website. You guys can sign up on this website for your requirement. So what exactly happens once you sign up on this website? It gives you a to-do list. So a Trello is a to-do board. You can see in this picture also. It is nothing. It is just a to-do board. So if I show you over there and back in the system, this is something what we have here. So we have a board. We have a board. If I open this board, you can see I have a list. You can see I have a list. Now I can add something here. Let's say I want to do Python. Okay. Next, I want to do API testing. Okay. What next? I need to do UI testing. Cool. Done. I have added 3 items in my list. Which list? To-do list. Now I can drag and drop. I can simply say that my Python is under doing state. Once it is done, I can say my Python is, I can simply say my Python is done. I can say I'm moving. Why is it opening? I can say, okay, just a minute. Yeah, it's move in the doing tab. I can now move it in the, it's not behaving correctly. So let's see if we can move this to done. We can do it like this also, or we can simply drag and drop. So this is a, I'm showing you a UI part of this website, that what exactly it is. There we have a board. So let me explain you using this. So what happens in Trello, that we have a board. You can assume it as a whiteboard. In this whiteboard, we have multiple smaller list. We have multiple small list. Like suppose what are your daily tasks? Once you have a list, like you have a to-do list, you have something else also. Once you are done with one task, you move it to another. Suppose if I'm saying I have task 1, once I'm done with my task A, I'll move this to another list to verify that I'm done. So once I'm done with my task A, is my mouse not working correctly, I believe. So once I'm done with task A, I'll move it somewhere to the next list, and then to the next list. So this is what a Trello API is exactly doing. Trello website actually. So we use it for as a list. We can add another list if you want to. Suppose I want to add one more list, like what is the date today? Today is 24 October. So I added one more list called 24 October. Here I can add one card that I need to take a demo. Let's say demo I have done. Let's say the next thing I want to add here is API automation. Right. So like this, we can have as many cards, as many lists, and as many cards inside a list. So this is a UI part. You can say this is what exactly is happening. I'm requesting something to Trello to make one card, and in response is making me one. Now similarly, we have some backend APIs also, which does the same task for me, but in that case I do not have a UI at all. So if I go to my board, let's go to the home section. So boards, if I click here, so these are the boards that I have. I can create as many boards using my API. So now from where do I get my API from? Correct. First of all, tell me, is the concept of Trello website clear to everybody? That what exactly this website is and why do we use it? So we are actually, I'm going to show you that how the backend affects the UI part. That how my API, I'm going to change an API and the same will be changed in my UI. So we are requesting something and I'm getting a response. That is the exact mechanism I want to display here. So let's see, go ahead. So this is my Trello API. How am I going to get the Trello API and all these things? I'll tell you later. So how many of you heard of the a tool called Postman? How many of you have heard about a tool called Postman? Anyone? I'm not asking if used or not. How many of you have heard about the tool called Postman? You have heard it? Great. So we can download uh, Postman. I can simply say Postman download, hit enter. If I open the very first website, this says, okay, you can download the application for the Windows. Click here, download it, and install it. Now, if I open this, this is what the Postman looks like. This is what the Postman looks like. What exactly the tool is and why do we use it? So the tool takes an API. The API means here I'm telling you the URL. I'm telling you the URL, that it takes the URL, and once I submit the URL with some data, it it actually displays the same information on front end. So for example, I'm giving you an example. So let's create one card. Let's name this board as 24 October. If I click on send, it says okay, 200 okay. 200 okay means that, boss, you got a response. You got a response that it is working correctly. So whenever you're getting a response as 200 okay, that simply means your work is done. Now if a newcomer sees this tool and says, I have hit it on send, this is my API. If I go back to my board, if I just refresh it, you can see a new board called 24 October is created. Now, a new board called 24 October is created, which is not created using the UI, which is created using the API. So whatever change we make in an API, all the changes are reflected back on the UI part. So just go through the first example that I gave you when I started the class. So this is the user. End user gives the requirement. So my requirement was cheesy noodles. Here I'm saying I want 24 October board. I am giving my requirement. The requirement is taken by this API. When I click on send button, it takes to the server. The server gives me a response. This is the response the server is giving. The server says, okay, your job is done and your ID is this, your board name is this, sorry, and your URL to access the board is this, and so on. And when I see the same on the UI part, it is very much easily and available. So is it clear now that how an API works, guys? This is my request. This is my request. I'm hitting an API. I'm getting a response. Am I clear to everybody? All the 24 attendees, guys, come on, say yes or no. I want it from all of you guys. All of you means all of you. What makes difference doing the same from UI and an API? So there is a very great difference, Kanan. Now just suppose your UI, suppose your UI crashes due to some XYZ reason. You're not able to access your board, you're not able to access your code or anything. So in that case, your APIs work, because at the end of the day, the same database is having all the information, correct? So that is the major importance that we develop an API, that in case if the front end breaks or some XYZ happenings happens. So what is the UI? UI is a very simple platform for us, right? So that we can make changes very easily. But at the end, there is a backend functionality called API which works for us. What is Postman used for? So Postman is exactly used for sending a request and getting a response. We can create our own test cases. We can create our own test cases in the Postman, that whatever test cases you want to create, you can have a pre-request script and so on. If UI is down, then it will be up after some time, and then we can continue testing right. But just tell me one thing, Kanan. that in case if your API is not working, in case if you have not tested your API, in case if your APIs are not at all working, then how do you expect that this UI will work? So let me show you. If I right click and inspect, if they show it, maybe if I go to the network tab, if I go on the boards, open this. So these guys have, you can see these guys have multiple APIs working here for me. These are the same APIs I'm showing you in my Postman, right? So if I show you here the first one, it is giving me some response. The same response is showed in my UI, correct? So unless or until I don't have my API working correctly, I cannot make sure my UI is working correctly. So that is the importance that API automation should be done. Whenever the developer creates an API, verify whether it is working correctly or not, because that will directly affect the front end. Okay. Walk through about Postman features, please. How to use it entirely. So there we have a different session on that how do we clearly work on Postman. We have 2 days of session where I'm going to explain you each and every functionalities. uh, Instead of testing API, I can test via UI, right? UI testing is a different part, Kanan, and API testing is a different part. Both are different. You cannot compare both of them. UI testing is also important, as well as API testing is also important. Okay. So anyone having any questions in this, that how am I going to create all these things, that I'll show you step by step that how are you going to get these APIs in your hand. I'll give you a walkthrough with all these things. Do not worry on that end. Once we'll get all these APIs, we'll automate all of them one by one. Am I clear to everybody till here? First tell me that, then I'll move ahead. How Python helps in Postman. So current Python is not a part of Postman. Postman is completely different. It is a manual testing tool. It is not an automation testing tool, but it gives you all the response, whatever response you want. So once we have a response, we can automate it using the post Python code in our IDE. Okay. Am I clear to everybody till here? Come on, guys. Yes or no? Go ahead with the question, Apeksha. Go ahead with the question. We cannot automate what? We cannot automate with Postman. No, you cannot. You can automate with Postman, but you can automate it using JavaScript. Here you write your test cases. Here you use JavaScript to automate the test cases using Postman. But that is something called manual testing. We are not automating it using Python. Okay. This is a different thing, and automating using Python is a different thing. Here we automate things using JavaScript. We write the test cases and we do that. But these test cases are not so, you can say, well maintained that we can rely on them, that whatever the test cases will result, it will be a correct one. So that is why we do not use Postman test cases so much. Postman not support Python. Postman is a manual testing tool, guys. Postman is a manual testing tool. I'm repeating myself. Python is different, a programming language. So do not get confused in both of them. So Kanan, you are saying how to use Python to automate. I'll show you that tomorrow. That how are we going to use Python to automate. Today I'm going to tell you a walkthrough about that, what exactly Python is and how do we use it. So now, if it is clear to everybody till here, let's move ahead. How many of you heard of a term called Django that we are going to cover in this course? How many of you have heard about a term called Django? Django, someone says. No, Postman is not at all used to test your UI. In this course, whether would we use the Postman scripting in pre-request? Yeah, I'll cover all the options. Do not worry in that case. I'll cover pre-request scripting. I'll cover testing and everything. So how many of you heard about a term called Django? In case if yes, then you can tell me what is Django? Not heard about it? Okay. It's a web framework. So Django is a framework, guys. Django is a framework which is used to develop your API as well as your UI. It is used to develop a website using Python. So whenever we are talking about API automation using Python, we should always because whenever guys an application is created in Django framework, you should be aware about all the important things of that what is Django, why do we use it. So that is one of the course highlight. I'll say over here I'll give you multiple APIs. I'll give you 5 APIs which is created at my own, and we are going to automate these 5 APIs. 5 APIs will be REST APIs. Okay, I'll give you a code. Let me show you also. So this is my Django framework. Let me go back. So it says the server is down. Let me up the server one more time. Give me a second, guys. So I'm going to tell you that how to create this Django framework. I'll give you this code directly, and then you guys have to just simply execute one command and your server will be up and running. Just give me a minute. Python. Sorry. So let me reload it one time. Just a sec. Am I audible, guys? Because it shows my voice is not clear. Just give me a minute, guys. I'm actually executing the server. Yep, it should be executed now. So you can see. So this is my Django framework, guys. This is my Django framework. Now here you can see I have created a blog. You guys must have heard about a website like a blogging website or something, which we normally use in our day-to-day life. So we have created a blogging. This is a database. This is the database that we are going to use in our course. We are going to create this database. Over here, sorry, we have a table called post. If I open this post table, you can see there are multiple posts available with me. So now if I see one of them, let's see 7 June, you can see there are multiple, all the different functionalities available. So what is the post ID, name, first name, XYZ. So now this is my database. Try to understand, guys. I'm going to explain you a very nice concept here. So if see what is happening exactly. This is my the one I have shown you, the Trello API. I'll connect with that. So let's name it as Trello. Sorry. Now over here, what exactly was happening? I suppose I was having 4 boards. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have 4 boards, each one have a different ID. So let's say this has ID 1, this has ID 2, this has ID 3, and this has ID 4. Now each of these board contains more information, correct? Each of these board contains, let's say, 3 cards, 3 cards each, 3 lists actually I'll say, which is to do, doing, and done. Correct? This is what we just saw. If I show you over here also, yep, over here also you can see if I go to my boards, if I open 24 October, we have 3 different lists. Now, if I execute, I have an API called, get board IDs. If I hit enter, you can see in the result it gives me everything. That boss, the name is this, the ID is this, the name is this, the ID is this, the name is this, the ID is this. That I have a board like this which have a unique ID. So similarly, each of these board has unique IDs, and I have something with me. Now you guys must be wondering, or it is a very normal question to ask, that from where I'm getting these information from. From where I'm getting this information from, that what is the name, what is the ID, and all these things. From where I'm getting this information, guys? A normal question. From where is this returning me this information from? Database. There might be a database available down there with where everything is stored. Correct? Correct? Yes or no? There might be a database where everything is available down there, and from that database it is returning me the results one by one. So similarly, the same database that I'm just talking about is this, that I have created a post API which has a database which has all the information. Now in the next tab, I'm opening an API which is called post list. So it has a method called get API post list, which will be returning me the same data. So you can see, if I hit this API, it is going to return me the same data in the JSON format. In the JSON format. In case if I want to open any one of them, I'll simply go and I write 1. So 1 is not available, it says. Let's go 2. So you can see it gives me the data like this. The same type of the data I'm getting from here is the same type of the data I'm getting here. So whenever I'm going to hit this API, this is the API here. I've created a interface between the database and the UI. I do not have a UI right now. In between, this is the interface that I'm talking about. So this interface returns me this data whenever asked for. So it hits this database, it gets the information and gives me the response. This is the response, and this response is now forwarded to the front end. Now front end uses this information and displays us to the client. Am I clear? Is the concept clear? How does it work? Am I clear to all of you? All the 21 attendees guys there. I'll repeat it one time. But what about others? Guys, come on, show some enthusiasm. Yes or no? Rashmi, Kavya, everybody. Sonika, Tushar, Vaibhav, Yogesh. So now what exactly, just go to the same example, the Trello example I'm showing you guys. What exactly is happening in the Trello example? When I'm hitting this API called post, when I'm hitting this API, which is taking the user, the board name, what exactly is happening? It is responsible to create a board in the UI, correct? Similarly, I have created a API called get API list, or I can post some data also. It is up to me. It is up to me. So whenever I'm going to give these details, it will create a new post for me in the table. It will create a new post for me in the table, and I can use that information on my front end. The way the Trello has used, these guys have used this information on front end. This information, this is the response which I'm talking about. The same response I'm getting from my API also, and then I'm using this to display it to all of you. So this is how interface works. This is an API, this is the database, and we have a front end which uses the information. Simple and sorted. Am I clear this time? Shiv and Vaibhav. Shiv, Vaibhav, Divya, all of you. Great. So in this course, we have a responsibility. In this course, we have a responsibility that we will be working on, that how to create. I will be giving you this project. I'll tell you how to execute it. Once you execute it, you will land up with the same information. And once you land up with the same information, you'll get these APIs. And then we are going to use our own created APIs for automation, along with the Trello APIs that we have. So end of the day, let me explain you the structure also. We are going to start from Python basics. Python basics, which includes everything from who will create API in real time. So Kanan, I'm going to give you a project where the real time APIs are being going to be created. Okay. In a normal process, the developer creates an API in a normal real time. It's the responsibility of the backend developer, and we as a QA tester takes that API and test it. So the flow that we are going to follow here is, guys, we are going to create a Python basics, start from very basics, that what is Python, installation, everything, and each and everything. Once we are done with the Python basics, we are going to work on Postman, that how do we use Postman, what are the exact ways to use it, what is prerequisite script, how to write our own test cases, what is a collection, how to post a request, how to get a request, all this information. Then we are going to work on Django REST framework, which is, I'm going to tell you that how to execute the given project in your own systems, how to execute these APIs. Once we are done, another very much important thing, I'm also going to cover Django test framework. This is a very important things to learn, guys, if you are an automation tester in the Python domain and as well as a Django domain. Yes, we are going to cover the frameworks in detail, Kanan, but not these one. We are going to cover different frameworks in details. What is Django test framework, guys? So have you guys faced a difficulty? Now suppose I'm going to give you a real-time uh, problem. Now what happens? You have a database. Try to listen it properly and give me a solution. You have a database, and there are 5 QA members that are working on that one database. Okay. Irshad, Django, you can explain from beginning. You want me to explain it right now? What exactly? I'm not getting it. What is the exact query, Irshad? Django is similar to SOAP UI. No, Django is a different framework, Webber. When you start after Python, so see, Irshad, there is no use as a QA automation tester that you have to create APIs. It is a part of a developers. So I'll tell you a basic understanding that how I have created an API so that you guys can also create one. But it is waste of time to deep dive inside this and work on. Okay. So difference between Django REST framework and test framework. Current Django REST framework is used to create APIs and test framework is used to test them. Simple, correct? So now coming back, guys, please try to listen this. A very basic problem that why Django test framework actually existed. So now the query is that you have a database and over there 5 different QA team members are working on one database. Okay. Now what happens? You have been accepting the you have been accepting these type of data. You have automated and you are expecting that I will be getting 5 responses, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. I will be getting 8 posts, suppose. But what exactly happens? One of your team member comes and deletes everything. One of your team member comes and deletes everything. Now what will happen? Will your test cases executed? Will your test case execute properly or not? Since you have no data to validate, how will your test case execute? Others, all the 23 attendees, guys, will my test case execute if I have no data in my test database? It won't execute. Where am I getting this data from? I'm getting this response from this database only, correct? Now, if this database is deleted, I'll not get anything. So to resolve this type of problem, this is called a test data problem, that automation tester is dependent on this test data. An automation tester is dependent on this test data. No, I don't want to. So what I can do, Django says there is no worry. You can create your own test database at runtime when you're going to execute your test cases. I am not going to use this test data, but I am going to create a new test database for you when you are going to execute your own test cases, and only you have access to that test database, no one else. So now after listening to this, is my query resolved? Is my query resolved that I have my own test database, I have my own test data? Now whenever I'm going to execute my test cases, no one is going to pin me, no one is going to delete it, no one has any access to it. I'm going to repeat myself this time. Let me repeat it one more time. Now I'm saying I have Django test framework says that, boss, whenever you are going to create your test cases, you are not going to wait for the original test data. Instead, you will be creating your own test data at runtime. Runtime means the moment you are executing your test cases, it will create a virtual test database, and then it will execute your test cases in that virtual test database. And once it is executed, it will destroy the test database so that no one other person has access to that code. Am I clear this time to you guys? Sorry. So that is a very great functionality which is being offered by Django test framework. As an automation tester, it is your duty to work on that. Am I clear to all of you till here, all the 23 attendees down there? Yeah, getting a response from only 4, 5, 6 people. Exactly, yes, Vaibhav. It will be very much similar to the original database. Where is the data taken during the creation of virtual DB in case data from DB is crashed? So, Divya, that is a concept called fixtures. There is a concept called fixtures that we are going to create at our own. I'll tell you there is a complete available resolution for this once we will start working on Django test framework. Okay. Yeah. So now once we are going to work on Django test framework, there is one more important testing framework from Python which is called PyTest. There is one more very much important testing framework which is called PyTest. Well, Python basics covers what it needs for automation. Yes, Shivam, it will cover everything which is needed for automation. Okay. Next, we are going to use and work on PyTest. PyTest is again a testing framework, a very powerful testing framework. I'll explain you that tomorrow. I'll give you a glimpse of the same tomorrow. Not a thing to worry. And for sure, we have BDD framework. Just give me a second, guys. Yeah. Then we are going to work on something called BDD framework. If you guys have heard about it, we also have robot framework. We will be discussing these things in detail, that what are these types of framework and where exactly are we going to use them. We are going to use page object model. Page object model. We are going to use this, what exactly the requirement is, and all multiple things. At the end, our responsibility is to use Jenkins, which is a CI tool, and we are going to learn about Git, which is a versioning tool, which is a versioning tool. So this is all that we are going to cover in uh, our complete course. Python is used to automate only web applications API or window based applications as well. So you guys can go ahead with your questions for the day if you guys have any. So Python is used for Windows as well as API automation, and for desktop automation we use robot framework. Okay, so are we going to cover elaborately all these frameworks? So robot framework and VDD framework and all these things will be covered at basic level. Will be covered at basic level because all these frameworks are BDD will be covered for sure, but robot framework is a very vast framework. So we are going to work on a basic version of this, and for sure we are going to work completely on POM. How many weeks this training will be? This training will be for almost 8 to 10 weeks, guys. Python basics will cover full automation part. Yes, Python automation will be covering automation will be covering every basic thing which is required for your automation in Python. So we're going to cover everything from basic to advanced. Not a problem to worry about. Tomorrow we will be working. We will be seeing that how are we going to automate? How are we going to automate using Python? I'll show you that tomorrow. Also, I'll show you what is PyTest, how are we going to use PyTest, and all these things. So do we automate with DB as well? Yes, we can connect with the database Apeksha, but we have to learn SQL to work on database automation. Yes, Shift, PyTest does the same thing as TestNG does in Selenium, but it is more powerful than TestNG and more easy. No, we are not going to cover DB testing in this course. Yes, guys, the timing will remain the same, 6:30 to 8 p.m. IST, Indian Standard Time. What is PyCharm? I'll tell you tomorrow. PyCharm is an IDE, integrated development environment, which we are going to use to code. No, Ayush, my session is not available on Udemy. My session will be covered, will be available in recordings of Way to Automation portal. I saw the content shared by Rahul, which covers DB test. So, Kanan, as I am repeating myself, I'll show you how to connect with database. I'll show you how to connect with database. But testing in database, going inside and testing in database is a different thing and a different terminology that we are not going to cover. Okay, I'll show you how to extract data from database, but not exactly how are we going to test the SQL queries and all these things. Can we cover JDBC in PyTest? Rashmi, JDBC is not available in PyTest. We have Python connectivity with database. That is a different thing. What will be the overall cost of this training? You can connect with Rahul for the question. He will be answering you for this. Yes, guys, please, before whosoever is interested in attending tomorrow's session, please install Python in your systems. Please install PyCharm in your systems. These are the two important things that we require before tomorrow's session. In case if you guys have any questions, you guys can connect with me with my phone number, which is 7011197716. My good name is Ashish Garg. You guys can also drop me an email on my email ID, which is agarg9582@gmail.com. So this is my WhatsApp number also. You guys can drop me a WhatsApp on the same number. Okay. Sir, will I get a recorded video? You can attend it on the same time, which is a live lecture. And in case if you want a recorded video also, that is also available, Bharat. What will be the achievement post completion of the course? So Yogesh, at the end of the course, uh, you will be enough good that you can challenge a 2 years person who has an experience in Python automation already. So at the end, you will be learning Python automation at a very deep level. What will be the topics for tomorrow? Tomorrow we are going to work on how to exactly code in how to automate API using Python. I'll show you the exact thing. Is it simple to install? Yes, it is very simple to install, Rishad. Do not worry. What is SOAP UI? Is it a different thing? SOAP UI, I'll tell you. SOAP UI is a tool which we use. So it is a different thing, Weber. Will there be WhatsApp group for this batch? Yes, there will be a WhatsApp group for this batch, Anil. Do we need to set path like Java for Python, sir? So when you are installing Python, Nisha, there is a checkbox available which says automatically sync the path. So once you click on the checkbox, path is automatically set it. Is the session is on daily basis? No, Kafir. The session is only on weekends, which is Saturday and Sunday, 6:30 p.m. to 8:38 p.m. IST, Indian Standard Time. Tomorrow's timing remains the same, which is 6:30 to 8. Is this intended to API only or covering Selenium with Python? So it is only API testing, Yogesh. Selenium with Python, we have a different batch for that. Are we covering Linux curl? Yes, we are going to cover Linux curl also, which is how to execute a command on the curl machine, on Linux machine. Yeah. Any more questions, guys? Difference between REST and SOAP UI. SOAP UI is a tool. SOAP API is something else, Ayush. So I'll tell you tomorrow the exact difference because I'll give you a flow chart. I'll tell you that in a this detailed fashion tomorrow. Tomorrow, but you mentioned at 6 p.m. Okay, so you guys must have received an email. So we'll start the session at 6 tomorrow because on the occasion of Dashera, we are starting it earlier. Yeah, and then we are going to do the same project that I'm talking about. We are going to create our own APIs, automate them, install them on Jenkins and execute it. So we're going to cover the complete project. Okay. Yep, you need to download the free community version for PyCharm. Okay. So guys, any feedbacks for today? I would love to have feedbacks. I would love to have feedbacks. How was the session? Postman is also very freely available software, guys. How was the session, guys? Any feedbacks for tomorrow so that I can improve myself for tomorrow? Good, bad. Any feedback will be help for me. How was the session, guys? It was good. Okay. Informative, excellent. Thank you, guys. So Irshad, asking questions is very good of you. I appreciate those students who ask questions because if you ask question, it's a very important thing. Okay, at least you are, asking it. We should always keep on asking question. So maybe a little bit slow while running request response and postman like that. Yeah, I'll be slow maybe in tomorrow in the next sessions. Session was good, but just one feedback to little bit slow through. You mentioned you need to finish the course. Guys, since in the demo I have multiple things to explain, so that is the only reason I'm taking it like this. Otherwise, do not worry. We'll be taking the session very slow and informative, day by day, and unless or until you guys are satisfied, we're not going to end it. That is a word of mine. Unless or until each one of you is satisfied, we're not going to end it. Okay? Yeah. What about others, guys? How was the session? Out of 23, I got a response from 8 students. What about others? Rashmi, Tushar, Sonika, if you guys are hearing me, Yogesh, Samir. So, okay then, guys, in case you guys have no more questions left, we are going to connect tomorrow at 6 p.m. I'm repeating myself, the timings for tomorrow is 6 p.m. because it's the occasion of Dussehra. It's a festival in India. So, guys, please be available there at 6 p.m. sharp IST, and then we're going to cover the next of the part. In case if you guys still have any doubts, you guys can connect me on my WhatsApp number, which is 7011197716, or you can drop me an email on my email ID. So that's all for today's session. Thanks for being patient. I will be connecting back tomorrow. Okay, I'll ask Rahul to send the updated webinar invite. Not a problem. Okay. Welcome, guys. Welcome. So that's all. Any more questions? Anyone? Sorry. Any more questions? Anyone? Will we get the recorded session? Yes, you will get the recorded session, Irshad. Not a problem to worry. So okay then, guys. I'll see. I see that's done for the day. That's all. I'll give you the URLs tomorrow, Divya. I'll give you the tutorials which are available online. You can go through them. Okay. Okay then, guys. See you tomorrow at 6 p.m. sharp. Bye bye. Take care. Stay safe. Stay home, guys.